Perfect Matrimony by SAMAEL AUN WEOR. Chapter 3, The Great Battle. In Jeremiah chapter 21, verse 8, one reads, "Behold, I set before you two paths, the way of life and the way of death." Man and woman can use sexual contact and the delights of love and kisses to transform themselves into gods or into demons. From the dawn of life, a great battle has existed between the powers of light and the powers of darkness. The hidden root of this battle is in sex. There is a correct interpretation of the mysteries of sex. White magicians never spill the semen. Black magicians always spill the semen. White magicians make the ingenious serpent of the magical powers rise through the medullary channel. Black magicians make the snake descend toward the atomic infernos of man. Gods and demons live in eternal struggle. The gods defend the doctrine of chastity. The demons hate chastity. The root of conflict between gods and demons is in sex. The great battle takes place in the Astra Light. The Astra Light is the depository of all the past, present, and future forms of great nature. The Astra Light is the Azoth and the Magnesia of the ancient alchemists, the flying dragon of Medea, INRI of the Christians, the tarot of the Bohemians. The astral light is the terrible sexual fire issuing from the nimbus of the sun and bound to the earth by gravity and the weight of the atmosphere. It is the sun which attracts and repels the enhancing and delicious light. The astral light is the lever of Archimedes. The old sage said, "Give me 1 point of support and I shall move the universe." The semen is the astral liquid of man. In the semen is the astral light. The semen is the key of all powers and the key to all empires. The astral light has 2 poles, one positive and one negative. The ascending serpent is positive. Descending serpent is negative. When it rises, it is the serpent of bronze that healed the Israelites in the desert. When it descends, it is the tempting serpent of Eden. When we know how to adore and to kiss with infinite tenderness and supreme chastity, the serpent rises. When we ardently enjoy lust and spill the cup, the serpent becomes drunk with madness and is precipitated toward the atomic infernos of man. Beings who adore each other live in the region of the light. The souls who become drunk with the chalice of lust, and who after having become drunk spill the cup, live in the regions of darkness. These souls are consumed in the fire of their own lust. The earth is ruled by Christ and Jehovah, who live in eternal struggle. Christ is the chief of the gods. Jehovah is the chief of the demons. Jehovah is the extremely perverse demon who tempted Christ on the mountain, and tempting him said, "Ita Babo, all these things, kingdoms of the world, will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me." Then said Jesus unto him, "Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve." Jehovah is a fallen angel who is extremely perverse. Jehovah is the genius of evil. Christ is the chief of the great white lodge, and Jehovah, his antithesis, is the chief of the great black lodge. The powers of light and darkness live in eternal struggle, and the roots of the struggle are in sex. The semen is the battleground. In the semen, the angels and demons fight to the death. The backbone of the great conflict between angels and demons is sex. The problem is there. The root of all white and black doctrines is there. Christ has his plan of action. Jehovah has his. The chosen follow Christ. The great majority of human beings fanatically follow Jehovah. Nevertheless, all of them hide behind the cross. In the astral cross, columns of angels and demons fight each other. Facing each angel is a demon. Every human being has his double. We have here one of the mysteries of the twin souls. The Lamas say that Devadatta was the brother and rival of Buddha. He is the king of the inferno. In everything, the doubles resemble one another. The doubles are analogous. They have the same tendencies, but with the differences of the analogues of opposites. Facing a white astrologer is a black astrologer. If a master teaches white sexual magic, his double will teach black sexual magic. The doubles are similar in everything, but they are antithetical. The physiognomy and body of the doubles are similar because they are twins. This is one of the great mysteries of occultism. Every white soul has a black double, a contrary soul that antagonizes and fights. Love and anti-love fight each other. Anael is the angel of love. Lithis is its tenebrious double. Lithith represents anti-love. In ancient times, the great Thurgist, Lambesius, invoked these two genii, and then from a river came two children, love and anti-love, Eros and anti-Eros, Anael and Lithith. The multitudes that witnessed the miracle of Lambesius prostrated themselves before the great Thurgist. The disciple of the stony path that leads to nirvana is filled with ecstasy when he has the privilege of contemplating Anael, the angel of love. Anael appears before his callers, those who know how to invoke him. Anael is a beautiful child of the dawn. In the presence of the angel of love, we feel ourselves return to the lost innocence of Eden. Anael's hair appears as a golden cascade falling over her alabaster shoulders. The face of the angel of love has a rosy color of the dawn. Anael dresses with a white tunic and is indescribably beautiful. Anael is the angel of music and of love, the angel of beauty and of tenderness, the delightful Cupid of the enamored, and the ecstasy of all adoration. Lithith, the rival brother of Anael, is his fatal antithesis. He is a terribly malignant child. He is the infernal angel of all great amorous deceptions. He is the monarch of the atomic infernos of man. Lithith cannot withstand the look of the angel of love, but he is the shadow of that angel. Lithith has the presence of a terribly malignant child. Lithith's hair is untidy and discolored, his face is malicious, and his tunic of black and blue tells us quite clearly of a world of cruelty and bitterness. Anael represents the positive ray of Venus. Lithith represents the negative ray of Venus. The traditions of the great Kabbalists say that Adam had two wives, Lithith and Nahima. Lithith is the mother of abortion, stoning, sexual degeneration, homosexuality, and infanticide, etc. Nahima is the mother of adultery. Nahima seduces with the enchantment of her beauty and her virginity. When a man is unfaithful to his wife, given to him by the Lord of the laws, he receives a luciferic mark between his eyebrows. When a man marries a woman who does not belong to him, when he marries in violation of the law, it is easy to recognize the error, because on the day of the wedding the bride appears bald. Her head is so covered by the veil that her hair cannot be seen. The woman does this instinctively. For the woman, the hair is the symbol of modesty, and to display the hair is prohibited in the weddings of Nahima. This is the law. The angels of light and the angels of darkness live in eternal struggle. The root of the great battle between the powers of light and darkness is in sex. All planets have two polarities in accordance with the great law. Elohim, Gibor, represents the positive rays of Mars. The double of the Elohim represents the negative ray of Mars. The double is called Andromelech. The perverse demon Andromelech is now reincarnated in China. The supreme chief of the positive ray of the moon is Jehovah. Shava-Joth is the exact antithesis, his rival brother. Jehovah directs the positive ray of the moon. Shava-Joth directs the negative ray of the moon. Jehovah teaches white sexual magic. Shava-Joth teaches black sexual magic. There are two moons, the white moon and the black moon. The universal feminine forces of sexuality are represented in the two moons. Creation results from the evolutionary processes of sound. Sound is the expression of sexuality. The angels create with the sexual power of the creative larynx. The unmanifested primordial sound, by means of its incessant evolutionary processes, is converted into energetic forms of dense stabilized matter. The primordial unmanifested sound is the subtle voice. The primordial sound contains within itself masculine, feminine, sexual forces. These forces multiply and complicate as we descend into the difficult abyss of matter. The positive pole of sound is the marvelous force, which draws us toward the unmanifested absolute, where only happiness reigns. The negative pole of sound is the tenebrous force, which attracts us towards the veil of bitterness. The positive pole is solar, Christic, divine. The negative pole is lunar and is represented by the moon. The shadow of the white moon is Lilith. The origin of fornication is in Lilith. The origin of separate individuality is in Lilith. The origin of the I is the black moon. The black moon is Lilith. Jehovah works with the white moon. Shava-Joth works with the black moon. The creation of the phenomenal universe is impossible without the intervention of the lunar forces. Unfortunately, tenebrous forces of the black moon intervene and damage creation. The sun and moon represent the positive and negative poles of sound. The sun and moon originate creation. The sun is positive, the moon is negative. The sun is the husband, the moon is the wife. The devil Lilith places himself between both and damages the great work. As above, so below. Man is the sun and woman is the moon. Lilith is the Satan that seduces them both and leads them to fornication and the abyss. Lilith is the black moon, the dark aspect of the white moon, the origin of the I and of separate individuality. Jehovah does not have a physical body. Shavajoth has a physical body. Shavajoth is now reincarnated in Germany, passes for a war veteran, and works for the Great Black Lodge. In the internal worlds, the black magician Shavajoth wears a red tunic and a red turban. This demon cultivates the mysteries of black sexual magic in a tenebrious cavern. He has many European disciples. Jehovah normally lives in Eden. Eden is the etheric world. The Lord Jehovah receives everyone who returns to Eden. The door of Eden is sex. In the astral, there are temples of light and darkness, and where the light shines more clearly, the darkness in turn is denser. In Catalonia, at Spain, there's a marvelous temple in the state of jinns. This is the Temple of Montserrat. The Holy Grail is kept in this temple. This is the chalice of silver from which Jesus drank the wine at the Last Supper. The Holy Grail contains the coagulated blood of the Redeemer of the world. Tradition tells of the Roman senator Joseph of Arimathea, who filled the chalice with red blood at the foot of the cross of the Savior. The blood flowed from the wound of the adorable and filled the chalice. In the Temple of Montserrat live groups of masters of the Great White Lodge. These are the kings. These are the knights of the Holy Grail. In other times, the Temple of Montserrat and the Holy Grail were visible to the whole world. Later, this temple, with its Holy Grail, became invisible. The temple exists in a state of jinns. Temple with its Grail submerged in itself within hyperspace. Now we can only visit the temple with the astral body, or with the physical body in the state of jinns. A physical body is able to be taken from three-dimensional world and placed in the fourth dimension. This can be achieved through the wise use of hyperspace. Soon astrophysics will demonstrate the existence of hyperspace. The ingenious tribes of America had a profound knowledge of the science of jinns. The Tiger Knights in Mexico knew how to put the physical body into hyperspace. There exists in America lakes, mountains, and temples in the state of jinns. This Temple of Chapultepec in Mexico is in the state of jinns. It is in hyperspace. The master, Huria Coca, received initiation in this temple. Next to every temple of light is a temple of darkness. There where the light shines more, the darkness by contrast changes appearance and becomes denser. The Knights of the White Grail must inevitably fight against the Knights of the Black Grail. The Chamber of the Witches, situated in Salamanca in Spain, is the fatal antithesis of the Temple of Montserrat. Let us study this curious analogy of opposites. The Temple of the White Grail is a splendid monastery of the Great Light. The Temple of Salamanca is a splendid monastery of darkness. The Monastery of Montserrat has 2 floors. The Chamber of Witchcraft also has 2 floors. The Temple of Montserrat is encircled by beautiful and sweet gardens. The Chamber of Witchcraft is also encircled by romantic gardens, where every flower exudes a halitus of death. Both edifices are splendid. In both places, truth and justice are well spoken of. Order and culture rule in both temples. Sanctity and love are spoken of in both temples. This will surprise the reader, and he will ask himself, how is it possible that sanctity and love are spoken of in the temple of evil? Please, dear reader, do not be disconcerted. Remember, brethren, that the Knights of the Black Grail are wolves dressed in sheep's clothing. The adepts of the left hand like to ejaculate their Christic semen. That is why they are black magicians. Their philosophy is the philosophy of fatality. All that is good for them is evil. All that is evil for them is good. For them, the doctrine of Jehovah is divine. For them, the doctrine of Christ is diabolic. The lords of darkness hate the Christ. The sons of the abyss hate the Divine Mother. In their regions, they violently attack all those who invoke the Divine Mother or her beloved Son. If the occult investigator enters the chamber of witchcraft with his astral body, he will inevitably find himself before a very beautiful and elegant spiral staircase that leads to the most secret part of the precinct. This is an elegant room decorated with all the splendid luxury of a stately mansion of the 18th century. There glitter the mirrors of the 1001 nights, the magic carpets, and all the Malagan beauty of Nahima. The governor of that fatal mansion is Don Ramon Rubefiru, the distinguished knight of the Black Grail, horrible demon of darkness. Those disciples who visit the chamber of witchcraft are unfortunate. The fatal beauty of Nahima will seduce them with the delicious magic of her charms. Then they will fall headlong into the abyss, where only weeping and the gnashing of teeth are heard. For them it would have been better not to be born, or to have had a millstone tied around their necks and been thrown to the bottom of the sea. The glory of the chalice of silver with the blood of the Redeemer of the world shines in the Temple of Montserrat. In the Temple of Salamanca shines the darkness of the Black Grail. Cosmic festivals are celebrated in the Temple of Montserrat. In the Temple of Salamanca, profane dances and disgusting witches' Sabbaths are celebrated. The Knights of the Holy Grail adore Christ and the Divine Mother. The Knights of the Black Grail adore Jehovah and the fatal shadow of great nature. This shadow is called Santa Maria. The kingdom of Santa Maria is the abyss. The great battle between the powers of light and darkness is as ancient as eternity. The backbone of the great battle is sex. The white magicians want the serpent to rise. The black magicians want the serpent to descend. The white magicians follow the path of a perfect matrimony. The black magicians love adultery and fornication. There are masters of the Great White Lodge. There are masters of the Great Black Lodge. There are disciples of the Great White Lodge, and there are disciples of the Great Black Lodge. The disciples of the Great White Lodge know how to consciously and positively in the astral body. The disciples of the Great Black Lodge also know how to travel in the astral body. During childhood, we all hear many stories about witches and fairies. Our grandmothers always told us tales of witches climbing into their brooms at midnight and traveling through the clouds. Although this appears incredible to many students of occultism, theosophy, Rosicrucianism, etc., and these witches really exist. They do not ride on brooms as our grandmothers believed, but they do know how to travel through the air. These so-called witches travel with their body of flesh and bone through space. They know how to take advantage of hyperspace and to transport themselves from one place to another with their physical bodies. Soon, astrophysics will discover the existence of hyperspace. This can be demonstrated with hypergeometry. When a body is submerged in hyperspace, it is said to have entered a state of genus. Every body in the state of genus escapes from the law of gravity, and it floats in hyperspace. There exists volume and hypervolume. The so-called witches move within the hypervolume of the curved space in which we live. The curvature of space does not pertain exclusively to the planet Earth. The curvature of space corresponds to the infinite star-filled heavens. If cyclones themselves constitute a proof of terrestrial rational movement, it is also very certain that precisely logical that the rotation of all suns, constellations in the world is a concrete proof of the curvature of space. The white magicians also know how to place the physical body in a state of jinnas. Jesus walked on the waters of the Sea of Galilee by making intelligent use of hyperspace. These disciples of Buddha, making use of hyperspace, were able to pass through a rock from one side to the other. In India, there are yogis who, by using hyperspace, can pass through fire without being burned. Peter utilized hyperspace, escaped from prison, and saved himself from the death penalty. The great yogi Patanjali states in his aphorisms that practicing a sannyasa on the physical body, it becomes as cotton and can float on air. A sannyasa consists of three parts: concentration, meditation, and ecstasy. First, the yogi concentrates on his physical body. Second, he meditates on his physical body, inducing sleep. Third, full of ecstasy, he gets up from his bed with his body in a state of jhanas. Then he enters hyperspace, and escaping from the law of gravity, he floats in the air. The devotees of Santa Maria, witches and warlocks, do the same thing with the formulas of black magic. White magicians penetrate with a superior type of dimension with their bodies in a state of jhanas. Black magicians enter an inferior type of dimension with their physical bodies in the state of jhanas. In all nature, there is always infinite addition and subtraction of dimensions. We abandon one dimension to penetrate another, which is superior or inferior. This is the law. The kingdom of Santa Maria is the abyss of failures. The kingdom of light is the region of the gods. Only those who have attained supreme chastity can live in the kingdom of light. In the abyss, chastity is a crime, and fornication becomes law. Whoever sees the elegant chamber of Jehovah Simo will be dazzled by its luxury and happiness. He will find himself there with thousands of female black magicians endowed with the extremely malignant of beauty. The inexperienced soul who penetrates these regions of evil can be led astray onto the path of error and fall forever into the abyss of perdition. The malignant beauty of Nahima is dangerous. In the temples of light, we see only love and wisdom. The tenebrous can no longer enter there because they live in an inferior type of dimension. The beauty of Nehima is fatal. Those who were so much in love, those beings who swore eternal, could have been happy. Unfortunately, enhanced by the beauty of Nehima, they adored another woman. They fell into the abyss of deception. The beauty of Nehima shines fatally in the chamber of Jahve Simo. Black magicians have a sacred symbol. This symbol is the copper vessel. The white magicians have the Holy Cross as their sacred symbol. The latter is phallic. Insertion of the vertical phallus into the horizontal uterus forms the cross. The cross has the power to create. There cannot be creation without the sign of the cross. Animal species are crossed. Atoms and molecules are crossed to perpetuate life. The blessed roses of spirituality blossom on the cross of the perfect matrimony. Perfect matrimony is the union of two beings, one who loves more and the other who loves better. The best religion available to the human race is love. Black magicians hate the perfect matrimony. The fatal beauty of Nehima and the sexual crimes of Lilith are the fatal antithesis of the perfect matrimony. The white magicians adore the internal Christ. The black magicians adore Satan. This is the I, the myself, the reincarnating ego. Really, the I is the same specter of the threshold. It will reincarnate incessantly to satisfy desires. The I is memory. In the I, In the I are all the memories of our ancient personalities. In the I is Athram, Lucifer, Satan. Our real being is the eternal Christ. Our real being is of a universal nature. Our real being is not any kind of superior or inferior I. Our real being is impersonal, universal, and divine. It transcends all concepts of I, myself, ego, etc. The black magician fortifies his Satan, and in him bases his fatal power. Satan's form and size result from the degree of human malfiness. When we enter the path of the perfect matrimony, Satan loses his volume and ugliness. We need to dissolve Satan. This is only possible with the perfect matrimony. We need to elevate ourselves to the angelic state. This is only possible by practicing sexual magic with the priestess wife. Angels are perfect. Our angels are perfect beings. There are two types of sexual magic, white and black, positive and negative. Sexual magic with ejaculation of semen is black magic. Sexual magic without ejaculation of semen is white magic. The bows and the dukbas of the red cap ejaculate their semen, which they later collect from within the vagina. This semen mixed with feminine seminal fluid is reabsorbed once through the urethra, utilizing a tenebrous procedure. The fatal result of this black tantrism is the awakening of the serpent in an absolutely negative form. Thus, instead of ascending through the medullary canal, it descends toward the atomic infernos of man. This is the horrific tale of Satan. With this procedure, the Bahones and Dugpas are forever separated from the eternal Christ and forever submerged in the terrifying abyss. No white magician ejaculates the semen. The white magician treads the path of perfect matrimony. The Bahones and the Dugpas of the red cap want, through this fatal procedure, to unite the solar and lunar atoms and awaken Kundalini. The result of their ignorance is the separation from the eternal God forever. White magicians mix the solar and lunar atoms within their own sexual laboratory. This is what the perfect matrimony is for. Blessed be woman. Blessed be love. The great battle between the white and black magicians has its root in sex. The tempting serpent of Eden and the serpent of bronze that cured the Israelites in the desert are in mutual combat. When the serpent rises, we become angels. When it descends, we become demons. During sexual magic, the three breaths of pure akasa, which descend through the Brahmic cord, are reinforced. When the magician spills the semen, he loses billions of solar atoms, which are replaced by billions of diabolic atoms, which the sexual organs collect during the nervous movement that follows the spilling of the semen. The satanic atoms attempt to rise to the brain through the Brahmic cord, but the three breaths of Akasa precipitate them to the abyss. When they collide with the black atomic god that resides in the coccyx, the snake awakens and is directed downwards to form in the astral body of the tail of the devil. Angels are perfect beings. To rise oneself to an angelic state, we need the perfect matrimony. Demons are perverse beings. There are two forms of sexual magic, white and black. Those who practice white sexual magic never in their lives spill the semen. Those who practice black sexual magic spill the semen. The Bahons and the Dugpas of the Black Lodge of Tibet spill the semen. These tenebrous beings, after spilling their semen, retrieve it with a special instrument from within the feminine vulva. Later, they reabsorb it through the urethra using a black power, a variety of Vajrol Mudra, which we do not divulge so as not to propagate the fatal science of darkness. These magicians of the shadow believe that in this way they mix the solar and lunar atoms to awaken Kundalini. The result is that the spinal fires, instead of rising through the medullary canals, descend toward the atomic infernos of man and are converted into the tail of Satan. White magicians mix the solar and lunar atoms within the same sexual laboratory but without committing the crime of spilling the seminal fluid. In this way they awaken Kundalini positively and it rises victoriously through the medullary canal. This is the angelic path. The white magician aspires to the angelic state. The lords of the dark countenance want to achieve a grade of Anagrakya. The souls who follow the path of the perfect matrimony fuse with the internal God and rise to the kingdom of the Superman. The souls who hate the path of the perfect matrimony divorce themselves from their internal God and submerge into the abyss. The white magician makes the sexual energy rise within the two sympathetic cords of the spine. These two cords are intertwined in the medulla, forming the sacred eight. These are the two witnesses of the apocalypse. Fill your chalice, brother, with the sacred wine of light. Remember that the chalice is the brain. You need the vision of the eagle and the ingenious wings. The tenebrious struggle to take you from the real path, known that the three worst dangers that threaten the student are the mediums of spiritualism, the false prophets, and the prophetesses, and sexual temptations. This is the path of the razor's edge. This path is full of dangers, both within and without. Live alert and vigilant as the watchman in wartime. Do not be surprised by those who consider sex as a purely animal function without any kind of spiritual transcendence. Commonly, the false prophets hate sex and teach novel doctrines that surprise the weak and which, after fascinating them, lead them to the abyss. Do not be confused by the false words of the tenebrious. Remember that the spiritualist mediums usually serve as a vehicle for black entities. They introduce themselves presumably sanctily and counsel against the path of perfect matrimony. Usually they affirm that they are Jesus Christ or Buddha, etc., to deceive the ingenuous. Be careful of the temptations that lie in wait for you. Be prudent and vigilant. Remember that in sex, one finds the great battle between the powers of light and of darkness. Everyone who enters the path of perfect matrimony must be very careful of these three grave dangers. The tenebrous struggle tirelessly tries to take you from the path of the perfect matrimony. Do not let yourself be seduced by those sublime doctrines which advise the spilling of semen, because they are black magic. The king of the diabolic atoms waits in the coccyx for the opportunity to awaken the serpent negatively and direct it downwards. With the spilling of semen, the black atomic god receives a formidable electrical impulse sufficient to awaken the snake and direct it towards the atomic infernos of man. Thus, man becomes a demon. This is how he falls to the abyss. Okay, I'm going to do a quick reflection on chapter 3. I have not done any reflections on chapters 1 and 2 because I didn't really feel inspired to do so. But chapter 3 of this book is very interesting. SAMAEL AUN WEOR talks about a lot of different things, and he talks about a lot of different metaphors that are inside of this chapter. So I haven't researched any of the metaphors that he is referencing here, that he talks about. But when we think about what happens when somebody becomes addicted to sex, right? So we have the idea of a sex addict. Well, a sex addiction is the result of chemicals in the brain. Neurotransmitters are produced after orgasm, which stimulate a positive response to the experience, and then after a short period of time, independent of the individual's mindset. Well, not necessarily independent, because I have gotten to a point where, this is outside of pride, of trying, but where my mind can and my actions can prevent my temptations. But being someone that has gone through the process, We all know that there is something out there that talks about the addictions that form from pornography, from masturbation, and we know the science behind it. We can say that this causes this hormonal chemical response, and this is the effect of that hormonal chemical response. And being biochemical beings, existing in a emotional, influential type of existence. I don't know if that makes any sense, but we are a combination of multiple pieces here. This idea of being vigilant and focusing on the use of your sexual energy, I think, is one of the main pieces of I suppose, truth that Samael has in this chapter of the perfect matrimony. Really the last part of the chapter, puts it all into place. I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s, and I was given information that was wrong. I was told that it was a sin, and to spill what Samael says, right? Spill the cup. So I don't think Samael didn't make that up, right? That's just a way of saying it. But then you're also that coupled with the social aspect of saying, well, it's okay, you can do it, and there's even sex education classes that talk about the benefits of the orgasm in males. So it's one of those things where young men aren't given instruction about the importance of maintaining their sexual energy and utilizing their sexual energy in a positive way. It seems to me that this information is being hidden, whether or not it's being hidden on purpose. It is, and it might be one of those things that it needs to be brought out to the males in our world, the young men of our world, and young and old. So that's just sort of what I was thinking about after reading this chapter. It's very interesting. This is my first Samael Aun Weor book. He's written a bunch of them. I'm going to try and read as many as possible, and read them out loud, so that people can also either listen to it or read it themselves. I guess sorry when I mispronounce things. I'm learning Spanish, but this doesn't. There are some words here that I've just never interacted with before, so my pronunciation for many of them is most likely very wrong. So forgive me on that, and or don't, whatever. It's okay. I'm gonna keep on doing this. All right.